On behalf of the Theosophical Society, I have immense pleasure in welcoming you all to this series of talks on wisdom for living. Today's speaker is Gita Krishnaraj. Welcome, Gita. I would like to briefly mention to you what is Theosophy, where we are at the moment in the Theosophical Society, and the brief history of the Theosophical Society for all of you. And most of you, or some of you, are coming to the society for the first time. First of all, the word philosophy means love of wisdom. The word Theosophy means divine wisdom. In Sanskrit, it is called Brahma Vidya, that is knowledge of the Supreme Self. The Theosophical Society was founded by two people, an American by name Henry Steele Olcott and a Russian by name Helena Petrova Blavatsky in the year 1875 in New York. The object of the founders were to form a nucleus of universal brotherhood without the distinction of race, creed, sex, caste and color, to study comparative religions and to study the latent powers hidden in human beings. In 1882, they bought a part of this beautiful estate where we are in at the moment. The place had high vibrations, and this apart, the confluence of the river and the sea made this place more sacred. Annie Besant joined the Theosophical Society in 1889, and she bought the remaining of the lands where we are in at the moment. Universal Brotherhood being the main focus of the Theosophical Society, Annie Besant had penned some lines which became the universal prayer or universal invocation. It goes like this: O hidden life, vibrant in every atom, O hidden light, shining in every creature, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness, may each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. This is spirituality. For anybody to understand, this is spirituality. Yoga literally means union. Union of the individual soul with the oversoul. There are many yogas for reaching the one. They are Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Mantra Yoga, Tantra Yoga, and all. Hatha Yoga also you can say. The Theosophical Society is a beacon for following Jnana Yoga, the path, the golden stairs written by H.P. Blavatsky, a copy of which you can collect on your way out. I've got copies of this. This set of wisdom for living series of talks is aimed to reach out to many to come and get the knowledge from various speakers who have enormous knowledge, understanding, experience and intuition in the entire spectrum of human dynamics, that is spirituality, religion, business, politics, arts, science, fitness, vastu and feng shui and so many other faculties also. Wisdom means a healthy dose of perspective and an ability to make sound judgments, whereas knowledge is only knowing. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, but wisdom knows that you can't put a tomato in a fruit salad. The 8 elephants in the facade of the Theosophical Society depicts wisdom. True to that, we have series of School of Wisdom programs every year for the members of the Theosophical Society, and now the president, the 8th president of the Theosophical Society, Mr. Tim Boyd, has started this Wisdom for Living series of programs to benefit people all over the world. About Gita, today's speaker. She is my friend, our family friend for more than 20 years. Gita is a committed fitness entrepreneur who combines an academic background of a global MBA in Innovation and Technology Management and international fitness certifications with her creative expressions, evolved as a professional classic dancer, actor, director, educator over several decades of professional work to lead her team Maverick to aesthetic heights by incorporating elements of design thinking. Identifying apparently unconnected areas of passion, becoming proficient in each of them and allowing them to flow into each other's domain in a combinatory play has resulted in innovative new avenues of creative expressions of Gita. In bullet points, I will just read it out. The list is long, but I have made it short. Gita is the CEO of Maverick Fitness Studio. She is the MD of Maverick Fitness Literacy Private Limited. Gita is a holistic lifestyle coach, a level 2 from Czech University, USA, an internationally certified yoga teacher for children. Gita has a global MBA in Innovation and Technology Management from London Business School. As an administrator, she has contributed to Maverick Fitness Studios, spreading its wings in several locations across India for several companies including CTS, Tata's, Hexaware, Principal Global, Shell, among others. Maverick My Gym provides virtual wellness solutions for corporate houses. Maverick Fit Kids curriculum addresses the physical, emotional, cognitive, and social well-being of children by promoting the development of multiple intelligence using methods of embodied learning. Gita has written a 68-part series, a book titled When Science Met God. This is the book she has written, and it's there available in the Amazon. You can buy one in case you want to. It's a beautiful book. I have read most of it. It has come in 68 parts in Infinite Thoughts, an international magazine, and all the 68 have been compiled into one book, When Science Met God. She has also written a book titled Kaivalya. This is another book. She was the director of a Tamil TV serial on the life of Swami Vivekananda. Most of it was shot here in the Theosophical Society. Gita is a Bharatanatyam dancer of repute and has danced in front of former President of India, late Mr. Abdul Kalam at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Gita has performed as an artist in many of the lead roles in many of her house productions. Reflecting the sentiments and press euphoria for a performance as Kannagi. Kannagi means who emotes with her eyes. Dr. Chenna Reddy, Governor of Tamil Nadu, conferred the title Kapya Kalaimamani on Gita. She is an orator par excellence. Gita's guru is Mahatria Ra, founder of Infinitism. She draws inspiration and energy through him. She is quite modern on the outside, yet very traditional and deeply connected on the inside. She sits in the seat of meditation every day, and it is not by accident that she has come to give a talk today at the Theosophical Society, and you know the subject, it's all about silence, meditation. She has come to give a talk on today's topic, the spiritual science of knowing. Everything is born from silence. When you meditate long enough and the mind is in deep silence, a mere thought generator becomes the command of the universe. We will know from Gita what is spiritual silence. Gita.
Sadgurubhyo Namaha. A very happy afternoon to all of you, and thank you all so much for joining me for the next few moments. This is what I love doing, and your presence gives me an opportunity to share some of my experiences and my thoughts. Thanks, Ramkumar, for inviting me, and thank you for such an elaborate introduction. He spoke so much about me, but there were two things that he did not tell you, and I'd like to start with that. One is that I love traveling, and the other is that I love to read. While reading has been relegated to an academic pursuit in the last few years, I had the opportunity to go on a holiday with my dear friend Rama last year. In July 2022, we were visiting Kerala. And for the first time after a gap of almost 8 years, I picked a fiction book at the airport, thinking, okay, it's time for a break. Let me take something that is interesting but not necessarily academic. And I picked this book called Dark Matters by Blake Crouch. It was very interesting because it was a book that was talking about parallel universes, and that's something that was always fascinating for me. So reading the back cover, I got hooked onto the idea of what the book meant, and Rama can vouch for it that I hardly ever stayed away from the book for the first couple of days because I was so engrossed in the entire process of reading the book. To give a brief about what the book was, the book talks about how there is a physicist who is kidnapped from his universe and taken to a parallel universe because the physicist in the parallel universe has become a very famous scientist, a person who has achieved the impossible of learning how to travel through universes. And he realizes that he actually misses his college sweetheart whom he did not marry because he wanted to pursue his career. And now that he knows how to travel across universes, he decides that he wants to go back to that point in time or to that universe where he actually married his college sweetheart and was happy with her. So he travels back to that point in time where he was with his sweetheart and decides that he wants to pursue that life in future, and all his accolades of having achieved something stupendous in the scientific world means nothing to him anymore. So he kidnaps this other person, which is actually him in the parallel universe, and sends him off to this place where he is a scientist. And then the story goes on about various aspects and plots and all that. I was fascinated by it because, as Ramkumar was mentioning, I had written this book. Actually, I had written a series of articles under the title When Science Met God, which was published in the Infinite Thoughts between 2008 and 2014. And subsequently, we brought it out as a book. And I remembered I had written something about time travel at that point in time. And once I read the book, something in the book made me want to go back and read a passage that I had written, because I was curious, what did I actually write in 2014? Now in 2022, I'm sitting and reading this book, so what did I actually write? And I did a little bit of searching right there in Kerala, and I read this passage from my book. Suppose I wanted to go back in time from today, 2014, to the year 2000, to change something. I won't be able to do that, for if I did change it today, would not be possible. And so the travel back in time is not possible. My past is fixed. But so is my future, for on some day in 2022, I may wish to have come back to this very moment in 2014 to rewrite this very article. But that moment in 2022 is not possible if I didn't write this article today. So both past and future are fixed. And I was totally taken aback because in 2014 when I wrote, I could have written 2020, which was more logical, but I wrote 2022. And this article was published in July 2014, and here in July 2022, I was revisiting my own article after a span of 8 years to read the same passage. And as I read the passage, I wondered, what was it that I want to rewrite in this article? And I realized the only word I wanted to rewrite was the word rewrite. I wish I could change it to read. And there was that brilliant moment for me when I realized that somewhere through the past, the future was connected, and here I was witnessing something that was magnificent to me. So in October 2022, when Ramkumar asked me to join him here for this lecture, I thought it is some way, some indication. I just had this experience, and maybe it is meant to be that I should come and speak about it. And so here I am on the topic, the spiritual science of knowing, as part of the Wisdom for Living series for the Theosophical Society. So I want to once again thank all of you for inviting me and joining me here today to share a few of my experiences. Before I proceed, I want to make a disclaimer. This is not a prescription of how life is. I have no clue. It is a description of how my life is. And I'm just sharing my experiences with all of you. In order to proceed in a sequential manner, I want to be talking about revelations, a particular revelation, in fact, that I had. And in order to understand revelations, I need to speak about the changing view of time and how that leads to an understanding of revelations. I want to be speaking about So Aham, I am thou. And I love the universal prayer. After all, every syllable in that universal prayer talks about that. How is it possible for us to feel that connection, to feel that oneness with everything around us? And for me, the Nobel Prize for 2022 went to quantum entanglement, and that became a reference point for me to say, how does the quantum entangled world of consciousness actually support in the understanding of this Soaham, I am thou. And I do want to talk about spiritual silence. So what really is time? Anyone who'd like to share? What is your idea of time? What do you think time is?
The gap between two thoughts.
Gap between two thoughts? So time is supposed to be the perception of change. And Craig Callender writes, everything we do in time. The world is a series of events strung together by time. We see change, and change is the variation of properties with respect to time. Without time, the world would be completely still. A timeless theory faces the challenge of explaining how we see change if the world is not really changing. So time, in many ways, is about each individual's perception of time. I saw you as a little one. Now I'm seeing you as a grown-up, someone said to my daughter as she walked in. The perception of time is the number of years that have gone by in her becoming from that little one to the lady she is today. We all decided that we wanted to meet together here. Probably when the first information came, we were in our own world doing our own things, but we needed a common spot and a common place where we could meet for this to happen. And that is an event. A time specified and a place specified is an event in the universe. And that event is just a perception of how many things you might have done before you reached at this point. Maybe someone ran a marathon. Maybe someone got married. Maybe someone had a lot of work to finish. Maybe someone traveled across the planet before they could be here. And each of us have our own changes that have happened in our life. And the perception of those changes are very different for each one of us. And yet, as a common ground, we say there is time. At this time, we will meet here. And the changes that have happened in each of our lives is very independent and happens to be something that's very unique. There are several theories about time travel. The leading theory is called the fixed time theory. In this, it is thought that the past is already established and you can't change anything about the past, and it is a rigid thing. Then there is this parallel dimension theory, which is what most of the book that I referred to actually talks about, the dark matter. So in the parallel universe theory, there is one suggestion is that till that point, there's an identical history, and in that point, when you go back to, say, the moment Swati met Ramkumar, a division happens, and there's a parallel universe. And another parallel universe theory is that every time we make a choice, a new universe is created with the arrival of a time traveler. So I met my husband in 1995, and we decided to get married. So probably there is a parallel universe in which we did not. Maybe in one universe we did get married, but we never got a daughter called Meenakshi. Maybe there is another universe. So there are, according to this theory, at every stage with every choice, there is a parallel universe that is created. And of course, the third major theory is called the replacement theory, where we believe that every time we go back, revisit, and redo a choice, this is erased. So you replace the world with new choices. Now, the reason to go into details about this is to explain that time is only a medium. Like how there was a time when we used to exchange produce. So I have 10 sheep and I want 2 bags of rice. And we would directly barter with each other. I want this, you give me that, kind of a barter system. But over a period of time, we evolved something called money, so that there is a universal standard. And so I don't need to buy 10 bags of rice. I can buy 1 bag of rice and keep the rest as money so that I can buy from whoever else has whatever else I want. In the same way, if you take time, a single heartbeat can be correlated directly to the spinning of the earth or the speed of light. But it is too difficult for us to understand. So we came up with a shared understanding of the changes that are happening. And that shared understanding is what we call time, what we understand as the passage of time, as the changes that are happening in our individual lives. This gets a little complicated, but I'm going to simplify it in the next slide, so please bear with me. This is from an article in the Scientific American by Craig Callender, where he writes, "Is Time an Illusion?" is the title of the article, and he writes, "We normally see time through we see objects or we see changes through a slice of time." So hypothetically, if I had a ball here and I was bouncing the ball, you would say 9 o'clock, I have the ball in my hand. At 1 second past 9, the ball is down on the floor. At 2 seconds past 9, the ball has come back to me. So we slice time and we see the change. So at 9, ball is here, 9:01, ball is there, 9:02, ball is back here. So we slice it like that. But he proposed, what if we can slice it not by time, but by a space-time? So it means that the ball is here as well as there at the same time, because there's no time to separate. If there was no time to say this is 9 o'clock, this is 9:01, this is 9:02, I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere, and that becomes very difficult for our mind to process. So to put it simply, this is an animation of a girl walking. We all know there is no girl here. We all know there is no movement here. It is just a two-dimensional image that is made to look like there is movement. How did we create this? We created a timeline and created independent images that were placed one after the other. So in the first image, both the feet are on the floor. In the second image, the right leg is raised. In the third image, the right leg has crossed the left foot. And in the fourth image, the left leg is back there. So we sequentially, so in animation, we understand that movement is created by a series of still frames. And it's not that there is a real movement that is happening. So we are recording change in a timeline, saying that this is how it moves. Now, what happens is, in the theory of parallel universes, if each of these movements were actually choices, so I chose to move my right leg, I then chose to leave it on the floor, and if each one of these are choices, then in each of these choices, you've actually created a parallel universe, because maybe in one, I chose my left leg over my right. Maybe in another, as I lifted my left leg, I also lifted my hand. Maybe in a third, when I lifted my left leg, I actually fell down. Anything could happen. So at every moment of time, actually there is an opportunity for a parallel universe with a zillion different opportunities to manifest. And that, according to Blake Crouch in his book called Dark Matter, he says everything actually already exists. So he says the many-world interpretation of quantum mechanics posits that all possible realities exist. So there is a reality in which I'm here talking. There is a reality in which I probably never made it. There is a reality where I probably started and none of you were here. There is a reality when probably the power went off. Any number of realities could be possible, because according to quantum mechanics, every possible answer is. So quantum mechanics tells us that everything that has a probability of happening, and everything that might have occurred in our past has occurred probably in a parallel universe. So how is it that we see life with a certain modicum of sanctity or sacredness, with a certain amount of sanity, that we are able to actually say that, hey, this is me, I came here, I went there, I did this, I didn't do that. So what if we actually inhabit a multiverse, but our brain is evolved in such a way that it can only there's a firewall that, like how you push away the viruses, there is a firewall that makes us look at only the choices we have made. And that is our unique perspective, what we bring to the world. Because in this world, as Gita, I have a particular viewpoint, and I will be seeing only through my lens, but that does not mean the rest of it is non-existent. It does not mean that others don't exist. There are enough and more scientific proof to say that there are a lot of things that actually exist, but we seem to see the world from our unique perspective of what we actually imagine and experience. Now, in the book, what he proposes, and again, this is based on his understanding of quantum mechanics, and it's based on a lot of references to the theories. He says that every time the scientist wanted to go to a parallel universe, he will go into a sensory deprivation tank. A sensory deprivation tank is supposed to be like a large black box where you don't have anything to see, hear, smell, taste, nothing at all, so your senses are deprived. In that state of sensory deprivation, you lose your sense of time, and so you're physically able to go into a parallel universe. And he says that physically, the guy goes from one universe to another, and the book becomes very complicated because at one point there are 150 of the same guy in the same universe, and it becomes a blockbuster movie. But cutting it short, I thought, what if, unlike Dark Matters, where the protagonist has to enter a sensory deprivation tank to travel to a parallel universe with his body as a physical body, isn't it actually real that through meditation, we actually travel to a parallel universe of consciousness? One that you're not constantly aware of, but nevertheless, one that is available to you at will if you're able to meditate and come to that state. So what if, like a Photoshop document, if there's anyone here who has worked with animation or with creating visuals or Photoshop, so what happens in Photoshop is you have a base layer and everything else is a transparent layer that's attached on top of it. So in one layer there is a blue color, in another there is a leaf, in the third there is a flower. And when you see all of them together, but actually they are independent layers having different stuff on it. So what if, like a Photoshop document, what if every choice we made was an independent layer of time? And what if every layer, because of the perception I have of this layer, I call this layer Gita because I have walked through this. These are the choices I made. But there is a parallel layer where there are certain choices that I did not make, or choices that I wish I had never made. And that is a layer called X. And there is a layer where there are other choices that I wish I could make today, if I could go back in time and make those choices. And that is in a layer called Y. So instead of getting into a sensory deprivation tank to physically move from one universe to a parallel universe where your dreams might or might not have been real, what if we can enter into a sensory deprivation tank to consciously move to a parallel universe of consciousness? They are not parallel universes of space, but parallel universes of consciousness. And here, I'm not just proposing it as a theory, as a what-if scenario. I have been blessed to be in such a sensory deprivation tank, if I may use that word, by being in the presence of my Guru Mahatreya since 2002, to be in what we call the Higher, Deeper and Beyond, a program where we get into a space in his presence where we are deprived of our not normal senses and no connection to the mobile or the family or anything like that. But through the process of being in such high vibration, such a presence, you get to understand and experience certain parallel universes of consciousness. And one such was a revelation that I had in my very first HDB, very first spiritual retreat with my guru. And I had the opportunity to present that revelation at the Science and Non-Duality Conference in 2017 in San Jose. The Science and Non-Duality Conference, I was enamored by their logo. Om equal to MC square was like my dream come true. And the Science and Non-Duality Conference is a community that is based on science, on spirituality, and on experiences. So they invite people to come and share their thoughts on various aspects of science, spirituality, experiences, and the whole works. It's a beautiful community. And I had the opportunity to present about my revelation, which I titled The Parallel Lines. And the revelation goes like this: time is dynamic, space is static on the physical plane. Time is static, space is dynamic on the spiritual plane. In 2002, I had first approached my guru, and I had gone for this spiritual retreat with him without even knowing what was expected, what would transpire. I'm not a science student. I did not take science even in my high school. So when I had this revelation, and when I say it's a revelation, verbatim, I have reproduced exactly what came to me. I didn't even know what it meant, because I am not someone who understands physics. I'm not someone who pondered on it or had questions about it, or I wasn't even thinking about time and space. It was not something that I was reveling over or curious about or anything like that. But somehow in 2003, January, when the revelation came, my journey into understanding it started. And 20 years later, here I am, trying to present what it actually means. You see, my sense of identity begins with my body, begins with who I am. So I was born in 1971. I married my husband in 1995. I had my daughter in 1996. I met my guru in 2002. I had my first vision of silence in 2011, and I visited the Science and Non-Duality Conference in 2017. And to me, everything is sequential in time, and time has been dynamic because I'm not the same person I was even yesterday. From yesterday to today, I have changed, and time has helped me change. And I can understand that change through time. But space has been static. I am always this. I cannot suddenly decide that I want to be Krishna Kishore. I can't be. It's not possible. So space is static, but time has been dynamic, allowing me the flexibility to go through experiences and experience these changes. So on the physical plane, time is dynamic, helping me understand change, whereas space is static because my body is a limitation and I can never feel someone else's headache. And yet, when I sit actively in the seat of meditation, time becomes static because time is immaterial. You don't know whether it was 1 minute ago, 1 hour ago, how long you sat, where you're sitting, nothing matters. And time is actually immaterial. But during the process of sitting in the seat of meditation, you're able to get out of this body, this limitation called Gita, which is limited to being a girl, being born in this family, having this certain yardstick. And it allows you the expanse of connecting with the wisdom from the world, where you're able to connect and understand and realize the truths beyond what is limited by your life, by your body. And space becomes dynamic on the spiritual plane. As that feeling expands, I realize that on the physical plane, the relationship between time and space is the speed of movement. If I wanted to visit New York City, I'll have to book my flight. There is a sequence. I have to board the aircraft. The aircraft will fly through that entire distance, and I will reach my destination. There is a sequence. If I have to come into this hall, I have to drive down to the parking lot, park my car, walk across. I can't transposition myself from my house here. There is a sequence, and that sequence is the speed of movement. I can only move at a certain speed. I cannot come in a minute from my house to here. Whereas on the spiritual plane, the speed is the speed of processing. So what happens in one atom actually transposits to another atom, and that is the revelation of quantum mechanics, where it has taught us that the world is not what we thought it was. By simply observing a particle, you can change the particle, because your very observation has changed the particle. So we are not in an observatory universe, we are in a participatory universe. We participate in the making of the universe, because every interaction that we have with the outside is actually creating the outside world. So in the spiritual plane, it's not that I have to understand the nuances and then arrive at the solution. The insights flow, and that is how that revelation came to me, that time is dynamic and space is static in the physical plane, because it was not something that I deduced out of my understanding of science or my experiments with science. So in the classical physics, Albert Einstein believed that quantum mechanics is only a provisional theory and will be replaced by a deeper understanding that would not rely on probabilities. Classical physics told us that, tell me how the world is now, and I will tell you how the world will be tomorrow. Today, we've replaced it with quantum mechanics, which tells us, tell me how the world is now, and I will tell you the probability of how the world will be one way or the other tomorrow, because your very interaction with it can change it. Excuse me, can I have the audio, please?
According to the math of quantum mechanics, if two objects interact and then widely separate, a subsequent measurement on one of those objects, revealing one or another quality, would have an instantaneous influence on the other object, regardless of the distance between them. Einstein called this strange quantum connection. He called it spooky. Spooky action at a distance. And it troubled him deeply. His straightforward, intuitive belief was that widely separated objects are independent of one another. But quantum entanglement seemingly denied that by providing an invisible quantum connection capable of linking the distant objects together, or, as the name says, entangling them.
And this year's Nobel Prize in Physics has been awarded to Alana Spey, John Clauser, and Anton Zeilinger, whose collective works have carried out that test, establishing to most people's satisfaction that Einstein's conventional view of reality is ruled out, that quantum entanglement is real.
And that was the icing on the cake for me, because when the Nobel Prize was announced, I was thrilled beyond all measure, because here was someone able to prove something that I had actually experienced. The quantum entanglement, where without needing to go through a sequence of time to experience change, as you would deem in a physical world, where you will need to physically move from one aspect to another aspect to perceive that change, it is possible through the seat of meditation, through being in the presence of someone whom you can look up to and sit in the seat of meditation, to have that quantum leap into consciousness. And distance or space does not matter anymore, because just as how the entangled particles react, and we always thought there was a cause and an effect, meaning that something caused something else to happen. And here it was science proving that it is instantaneous. It's not that one happened and then the other happened. It's almost simultaneous. It was like proof that we are connected in so many different planes. So I realized that as I meditate, my mind expands, the world begins to expand with me. It takes a lot of effort if I, as an individual, has to experience everything. If I have to reinvent the wheel, if I have to find that fire actually hurts, if I have to find that actually you need to be safe, it takes a long time. Humanity cannot evolve at the pace at which it's evolving if we had to rely on each individual to have those experiences by themselves. There is a collective consciousness that propels us forward. And that collective consciousness expands from the seat of meditation, because everything can be internalized within a fraction of a time that it actually takes another to execute. Space no longer is static or divided by form. And as the universe expands and as you're able to connect with more and more of what is around, in the consciously entangled universe, your insights flow into mine. As Swami Vivekananda said in one of his speeches in the USA, I've not read Adi Shankara. I simply close my eyes and think of him, and his wisdom flows through me. And that actually is quantum entanglement, where it's not about reading a few lines or memorizing something or going through a process. So, to Giordano Bruno, the universe was large and expanding. He did not need proof. To the man who knew infinity, Srinivasa Ramanujam, even now people are trying to prove what he has already established as theories. So, all their knowledge was not deduction, it was knowing. Deduction is when you have a sequence and you say, hey, I say x is equal to 1, I say y is equal to 2, therefore x plus y is equal to 3. That is deduction, that is math. But here, Ramanujam was able to say, this is what it is. And now scientists, so many years later, so many decades later, are trying to prove, because they know it's right, but the proof, the deduction is happening now. So the science of knowing is that it is not sequential, it is not limited to your physical form, it is not based on your past experiences. It is more to deal with the quantum entanglement of your connection to the rest of the universe. My interaction in sand was very, very interesting in the Science and Non-Duality Conference, because I mentioned about this revelation. As I said, the revelation is something that happened to me, and 20 years I've spent trying to figure out. And everything that I've spoken right now is only a deduction, because based on the revelation, I have tried with my intelligence to come up with a way in which I can explain it. There was a theoretical physicist there who said, this is what I'm trying to prove. He said, what you've put in words is what I am trying to prove. And then he went on to explain to me with a series of ones and twos and dimensions, and I said, I don't understand anything. I am not a scientist, I'm not a mathematician, I have no clue what you're trying to say. This was a revelation. And he was stunned, because he said, how could this be something you already know, because I'm trying to prove this. And that is what a revelation is. From a linear understanding of time, where we thought time, the past was fixed and we had to go only one after the other, we have arrived at a parallel universe of space, as is visible in the fiction books that are coming and people's understanding of quantum entanglement. I personally propose a parallel universe of consciousness, because rather than someone needing to leave their physical body or go from one universe to another, if you can sit in the seat of meditation and expand your consciousness, there are parallel universes of consciousness. And the question is there a singularity? So time and space run parallel. As this person called Gita, I will always be limited by this human form. I will always be limited by my experiences. On the spiritual plane, I can close my eyes and feel connected with everyone else, but that again is only momentarily in that moment. But like I said, like the Photoshop document where the choices I made me Gita, and the other choices became X and Y, actually, it is all me, right? Because I was the one who made that choice, or I was the one who did not make this choice. So what I call X or what I call Y is actually a different version of me. Some version which sometimes I wish I was, some version which I believe I should have avoided, but I'm able to relate to it as me. So somewhere from the concept of you and I, when you sit in the seat of meditation, I want to connect with so-and-so, I want to understand the wisdom of so-and-so. You come to that point where you understand, I am thou, so aham, I am thou, because your consciousness expands to understand that the choices you have executed are only limited by your spatial being, by your human body. But actually, in the parallel universe of consciousness, you can be, and you are actually, anybody and everybody you are. So the Vedas says, there were never two birds, just one higher self calling out to your lower self. Every choice I make when I am you, you will understand when you are me. So the vanishing point, and I can't call it a point or a moment, because if I say a point, it implies space. If I say moment, it implies time, and neither of them exist actually. So in that vanishing point, after a period of evolution where you go back, first you start with being aware of yourself, being aware of your human side, introspecting every day, trying to be a better human being, and as you sit again and again in the seat of silence, trying to meditate, you expand your sense of consciousness to include others, to perceive other things, to get in. But then ultimately, there is a universe, a singularity, which I call the spiritual silence. In the presence of one who knows silence, the awaiting, witnessing consciousness is magnetized. Till then, you're only witnessing. You are witnessing that you are this human being, that you need to improve, that you need to have that greater understanding. You're introspecting, so there is a witnessing. But in that moment of silence, there is no witnessing, because there is no you, there is no I. What are you witnessing? Who is witnessing? Where do we come from? There is nothing. then how do you know you went into that space? When you come back, you're a much more beautiful person. When you come out of that silence, you realize, hey, actually I understand so many more things. Actually I feel connected to so many more people. Actually I'm able to vibe with them. So one of the foundations of spiritual evolution is to be non-judgmental, because the person you think is making the mistake is actually you in a different space, different time, making that mistake. And it's to be grateful, because the person you think has been helping you is actually you in a different space, different time, helping you to evolve to be that person. In 2011, I had the blessing of experiencing silence in the presence of my Guru Mahatreya for the first time. And my life has never been the same again. Thank you all so much. Any questions? Yes, Priyanka.
For today. It was an experience in itself, listening to you. It might be a really small doubt, but in the video that you showed about the man explaining that when two atoms or two beings,
Particles.
they come together and then they go separate, there's a sort of an understanding between them.
Yes.
What if they never came together? Will there still be some sort of a connection?
Well, I don't know the science part of it because I'm not a scientist. So whether quantum entanglement works even when things are not connected, I have no clue. But in the spiritual context, it is that only when you become connected, because everything that needs to be is already there, then why is it that someone is able to experience something and someone else is not? Because you need to be a willing participant in that. And when you are a willing participant, even if it has been just momentary, the connection remains and you're able to take forward. So when we say there is a presence, you have already connected with the presence, and then it becomes easy irrespective of the time, space, and distance that could be. But according to quantum physics, does it mean that even particles that have never met will be? I don't know. Time will tell.
Gita, you said you experienced silence. What exactly does it mean?
Well, it can't be explained. Silence is... So if you know, you're eating, you're sleeping, you're walking, you're sitting, you're talking, if you know, it's not silence. So you can say that I'm sleeping and I'm not aware, but sleeping is not silence. Silence is not only of the thoughts, because yes, thoughts to a great extent, but even when you're sleeping, probably you're not thinking consciously. Your subconscious mind is probably still closing some incomplete cycles. A state of trance is when you are meditating and able to connect to a cosmic consciousness, get insights from an Adi Shankara or from a Vivekananda. You're in a state of trance. So my revelation was in a state of trance. Time is dynamic, but that is not silence. That is not silence.
It's a blank state. That moment, what is the experience of yours? What is that?
So you will not have an experience because you're not there. So if you are there, it is not silence. That's why I said it is easier to say not this. Neti neti, it is not this, it is not that, it is not. So it's impossible to give it a definition because anything you define, you can find. So
If not, it's a conscious, it's a conscious forgetting of self.
conscious forgetting of self also means there is a self.
I think the parameters like time, space, and thoughts, like the deprivation of self, you told, right?
Absolutely. Deprivation of self in all aspects of sense or time or thing. But then it is not just that, because as I said, when you sleep also you're deprived of your senses, and it is not sleep. It is not when you get high on a drug. So it's not any of that. You will know that you have experienced silence when you come out of silence. It's like, from Thirittu DVD, you're seeing picture in 1000 mm, something like that. Like, I think there is a lot of clarity, there's a lot of beauty, there's a lot of energy. It's very different. You lose yourself. Mei maranda nilai. Is it possible? Of course it's possible. Absolutely possible.
Happy evening, madam.
Happy evening.
Gratitude will lead to love, love will lead to bhakti, bhakti will lead to devotion, devotion will lead to faith, faith will lead to surrender, faith and surrender will making miracles in our life. So this miracle is any connecting with the science and universal prayer. For example, 1111 is the highest the power of energy. What is that 1111? Is any connection with it for that silence and non-doing things?
I didn't get the last part. What is the connection between?
1111, that's universal
11:11,
time. 1111,
okay.
the time and the universal 1111 time. What is that power of 1111? They're connecting with the non-doing. For example, the silence meditation. Then what is that? This thing are all only the making miracles. How the miracles will happen? Thank you.
Experiencing silence is a happening. It is not something that you can program yourself to. Because if it was sequential, if it was that A, do A, then B, then C, then D, then it should be possible for everyone. Ramakrishna, who had not even studied school, was able to experience silence. There are any number of magnificent minds that have no clue, and they are not correlated at all. You cannot say that. That's why I explained it is not sequential. It is not like, you can't say like in that Baba film, he'll say, the dialogue he'll say, na kovilku poren, kulikaren, na idu pandren, I've done all this. How come Kali Kamba didn't come to me? Because that's not how it works. It is not related to a sequence of things that you do or achieve or stick to. It is the quality you bring in, the quality of receptiveness you bring in actually. The receptivity with which you come determines the outcome of what you receive. So how receptive you are, that much you will receive. And the idea of 1111, it is just an anchor. Like how you need an anchor saying that face this direction and pray, or do namas in this direction, or you do your Sunday morning church at this direction. It does not mean that 1111 is a rigid thing, because 1111 is different in different parts of the world. It's not the same. It's not the same time all the time. So it is more of an anchor that, hey, during the day, at that time, why don't you sit for a few minutes in silence and try to connect, because once you give that, there are going to be a few hundred people, few thousand people who are also going to be do that, so you get a collective vibration of doing it together. That's all. But it does not mean that if you do at 11:12, it won't work.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Have you met anybody else who's experienced silence?
Yes, I have. Is it silence addictive? Like once you go to that state and you come back, do you want to experience the surrounding things, or you want to go back to that silence?
So I won't use the word addictive, because somehow addiction has a negative connotation in language. But it is magnetic. It is magnetic. So once you've experienced it, you will want to experience it again. Like if you don't want to experience it again, then you didn't experience silence.
This quantum entanglement is very interesting.
Yes.
I don't know much about it.
Neither do I.
Yeah. But my point here is, if those who can talk in the atomic level, can they connect only to those atoms that don't have physical form now, or to those atoms that have physical form?
So that again is a question similar to what Priyanka asked, that I have no clue. I have no clue at all, because I come from the lens of experience, and I'm trying to use the words of science to explain something that makes sense to me. Maybe it doesn't make sense to others, I don't know. But whether it is only in a non-physical form, whether it happens even in physical form, I have no clue. I have no idea whether they will be able to prove or disprove any of that.
Do you emerge more knowledgeable once you experience silence?
Very interesting question, because many people think that if you have experienced silence, it's like, the bonnet in your head is opened and all wisdom comes in. That's not what it is. When you emerge from silence, you don't have questions. So any question you ask, the answer reveals itself. So it's not about knowing all the answers, it's about not having questions. And that is a very different state.
Yes.
Initially, you are going to silence with questions.
Yes, absolutely. Your mind is always questioning. Your mind is always in the point. But a questioning mind cannot slip into silence because you're all the time thinking, processing. So it is a process by which you quieten your mind, go into that sensory deprivation, try to get into that state where your mind is quiet enough and receptive enough to receive answers. And then, in the presence of someone who knows silence, it happens.
How much practice it actually takes to get that?
As I said, it's not sequential. It could be that a newborn child within 2 months will be able to achieve that because it's not based on practice or, sequentially doing something. It is more based on what you bring to the table. The quality with which you approach it helps you receive it better. I'm sorry, you had a question.
Can everyone attain science through meditation?
Yes. Yes. When, I don't know, but yes. Silence is the frequency of the universe.
Again, that is a scientific term. I don't know what the frequency of the universe is, so I have no clue. It's a language that we use. So, Tamil solra maadha vindar kandadille, kandar vindadille. It's very difficult to correlate and say what is what. It's more of, as I said, the experience stops you from asking questions. Once again, thank you all so much for your time, for being here with me. And I loved being here. Thank you so much. And thanks, Ramkumar, for gifting me this beautiful evening. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gita, for acceding to our request and coming over here and then giving a stupendous talk. We, on behalf of all those people who are assembled here, give a good hand to her. And Maria will give a small gift of appreciation to Gita.
The topic is a very complex topic, but she narrated it very lucidly.
Thank you so much for
Thank you so much.
I'm very happy that the parallel universe exists and brought us.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So it is kind of participating universe also. And this is about space of area, but anyway, behind it there is the timelessness and everything. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I wish I had heard you talk before I watched that movie of the multiverse.
Okay.
With Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yes.
Now that it makes sense to me. I'm kind of like spinning when I watched that movie, but now that you've said it, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.